Hello, and welcome to the Ultimate Guide to Insider Buying Masterclass. My name is Ross Givens. I'm one of the leading experts on insider buying and selling activities. I began researching these Form 4s and the actions of insiders roughly 10 years ago. And for the last 5.5 years, I've been running a premium trade alert service called the Insider Effect, where I issue buy and sell recommendations to members based solely on the activities we see from corporate insiders like CEOs and CFOs and board members. I can tell you definitively that you can, without a doubt, beat the market in a substantial way using this methodology, and we have proven that since 2017. In fact, we've had single-year returns as high as 292.9%, and that's just based on the stock trades, and that's the entire portfolio. That's not even including the option trades. So when I tell you this is a big hack when it comes to investing, one of the best ways to outperform the market and find those explosive stocks that can make really big moves, I say so from experience. So in this course, we're going to do several things. Now, as I said, I've been running a service for the last 5.5 years, issuing these trade alerts. I've never in all that time shared the secrets of what I do. I've never shown people behind the curtain how I do the research, what I look for, and the ins and outs so that people can do this themselves. So for the first time ever, I'm doing that now. Now we're going to cover everything from the websites you're going to want to use to track the insider buying and selling activity. We're going to cover what to look for in insider trades, how to evaluate those corporate insiders' track records and identify those that you want to follow, maybe avoid those that have proven they're not so good at this. We're going to go into things like frequent insider buying companies, so stocks see insider buying all the time versus infrequent, and why those are far more significant. We'll talk about which insiders carry the most weight, what kind of size you want to look for, how to compare that size to their current position and their past buying activity, and everything in between. So buckle up. This is going to be a very in-depth course. I did this in a live on an on-demand video course for the simple reason that I know a lot of people are going to want to go back and rewatch certain sections, and if we did this live, you would just miss a lot. So I'm doing this here from my home office, putting this together for you so that you can be an expert in insider trading activities. Okay. Now, I want to start with the websites because every time I give a presentation about this, people go, well, I've seen websites you can do this. There's like Open Insider and Insider Monkey and things like that. I'll show you those. I'll show you the limitations of those, why I don't like them, and I'll show you what I believe to be the absolute best website and the only website you're going to need to track this activity, to scan for these new opportunities and find the best stocks to buy. So let's go to the web. Now, the first site I want to look at is Insider Monkey. This is not the one I would recommend to you for several reasons. I'm not saying anything bad about it, but I don't find it super user-friendly. They do have some type of scanner in here. You see for insider trading, there is a stock screener. You can go in here and just find some basic filters as far as like the number of shares, the transaction amount, and the dates. Even the drop-down menus don't seem to work that well to me. You can run this filter, but even then, to get any of this data, it's going to ask you to log in, do a free membership, then it's limited. They do have a premium membership, but it carries a premium price at around $749 a year. And based on what I've seen from this, I just don't think it is worth that price. And even at $750 a year, it's not going to give you all the information you want to see. So the next one I hear about, Open Insider. Now, this is a totally free site. It's got a very basic scanner up here, and you can scan for a couple of things. Look at the filing date. It's got filing date and trade date for insider scanning. It really makes no sense there's both of them. When insiders buy or sell their company stock, they have to report that within 48 hours. So there's never going to be a discrepancy of more than a day or so between the filing date and the trade date. So I don't know why they have both those there. But even if we use the trade date here, scan for maybe the last 2 months, we just want to find purchases. You can select which officer is doing that, doing the buying, hit search. It will give you a handful of insider buys. And this is the right data. I mean, you're looking at Heath Fountain here at the top of Colony Bank Corp. President purchased 1,500 shares at $13.50 a piece, and how much the trade was worth and all of that. And if you click on the date, it'll take you to the actual Form 4, which is good. I like that they linked it there. The problem is this is all it gives you. And if I click on this individual, of course, it's got all these ads on there. I can go back and see their trading history, which is also good. But what I can't do is dig into the history of this company. So if I were to click on Colony Bancorp, for example, yes, it's going to give me a full dump here of all the purchases, but it doesn't. But it's not laid out in a way that makes it very easy to see. So you can do this if you really want to use something that's totally free. This is an option to go about it. But when I show you the next option and how user-friendly it is and how much easier it is to dig through, you'll see why I recommend it and why I'm getting ads for Yuke's ladies swimwear. I have no idea. Maybe my wife's been on my computer, okay? So here's the third site in my recommendation. It's gurufocus.com. Now, heads up, I make no money off this. I get no affiliate commissions whatsoever. I'm not paid to recommend this site. In full disclosure, I did work with this guy back in 2015. He's based out of Dallas, Texas, but haven't spoken to him in years. I get no money off this, so there's no conflict whatsoever. This is just what I use to scan for this activity. Now, this website was designed around value investing, and it's got all sorts of metrics and data. If you really want to nerd out on stocks, it's all in here. As the name implies, Guru Focus, it's based around following these investment gurus or these big money managers, hedge fund managers, primarily those that take a value investing approach and showing you their trades. I talk about this in the webinars a lot. There's a big limitation in following these gurus, these money managers, the main one being the reporting window. So they only have to report their trades, their holdings once per quarter. And in fact, it's 45 days after the end of that quarter. So to give you dates, let's say they're buying in January, that 13F filing that exposes this comes out May 15th. So it's a really, really long time. And to me, it's not anything you can act on. It's just too late. We don't have that problem with insiders. But you can dig through this site. I've got a membership, obviously. They also have a free trial. So if you're getting into this, you want to see if you like it, you want to dig through. Once you're ready to begin, go on the website, sign up. I think they have a 1 week or a 2 week free trial, and you can kind of dig through all this and then make your own decision on whether it's worth spending the money for the subscription. I've been a subscriber to this for several years. As I said, I used to work there. I pay for this out of my own pocket. I think it's worth every penny. It's just a lot of really good data. And the main tool I'm going to use is up here at the top. Is over here if you hover over screeners. Again, a lot of this stuff you're not going to use. 98% of the site you're not going to use. If you're curious what Buffett owns and the screeners based on his criteria, and Peter Lynch, the old historic value manager, and all that, it's all in here. But I'm just going to focus on this one thing, the very top left, the first drop down, which is the all-in-one screener. Now, again, as I said, you're not going to use most of this. This is everything, all these fundamentals, return on equity and sales and tangible equity and inventory turnover and all this kind of stuff. But if you notice up here at the top, there's a few tabs. One being all, that's going to give you every single thing you can scan for. And you see it's a lot of stuff down in here. Don't let this scare you. We're not going to use most of this garbage. Valuation ratio, profitability, growth, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to focus on one tab and one tab only, and that's right here, this Insiders tab. Now, you'll also notice there's a few other boxes denoting different continents here: Asia, Europe, Canada, UK. That's if you want a big membership for this website and you're looking for stocks that trade in Canada and Europe and Asia. When it comes to the insiders, we're only focusing on the United States because the loophole we're using, the 10b5-1 rule that allows these insiders to freely buy and sell, is a U.S. rule for U.S. stocks. The same thing does not exist for other countries. So we're specifically and only going to focus on U.S.-based companies. But again, all you want to do here, again, at the top of the page, screener, all-in-one screener, and then click on the Insiders tab right here on the middle at the top of the page. And this is the only scanning criteria right up here at the top. So you see it's got Insider, CEO, and CFO. So let's just focus on this left side under Insiders, the only scanning criteria you need. You can make this really, really simple. The first option is cluster buying. Now, cluster buying is when you see several different insiders buying the stock near the same time. Okay, so I like to see multiple insiders buying. The more, the better. 2 or 3 is fine. 6 or 7 is even better. But just to put some stocks in front of me and to get some names to look at, I'm just going to set this at a minimum of 2. So the drop-down menus, the left is the minimum, the right is the maximum. So I just go 2 insiders as a minimum, and that's going to give me a list of stocks here. For some reason, it's not going up to anything. This isn't a Bloomberg caliber website, so every once in a while it glitches. If it does, just update it. But that'll give you all the stocks bought by 2 or more insiders in a predetermined window. Now, right here, do you see this on the right side of the screen? It says date, and it's got one box here and another box here. This is going to give you the date range you are scanning for. So you see in the drop down, it shows each month. Right now, it is October 26, 2022. So that's the most recent here. You can go back and scan for the last 2 years, the last two months, whatever you want. I generally like to look for the last month to month and a half. So right now, it's the 26th. I might look for like the beginning of September to now, or the middle of September. So I'll just choose 9/1, the 1st of September, as the start date here. And then for the ending date, just hit the tab at the top, and that's going to be up through today. Okay, so this is from September 1 to October 26. Now, even though it doesn't show you Canon here, if you want to get a little tighter, you can highlight this and type in there and type in an actual date. So if you just want to go from September 15th to today, you can do that as well. Okay, so if we've got a date range set, we've got over here on the left cluster buying, 2 or more insiders, and then value buying. So you can scan by the total number of shares bought or the total value of those shares bought. I like to scan by the value of those shares because we know that stocks trade in far-ranging prices, okay? If you buy 1,000 shares of a stock that's 50 cents a piece, that's a $500 investment. If you buy 1,000 shares of Berkshire Hathaway Class A, that's a $2 million investment. So the share number doesn't really tell me much. I like to stick to the value buying, and I just set this at 200,000 or higher. The better ones are going to be even bigger, so you can go to 500,000 or so if you'd like. If you start getting too many names on this list, you may go bigger. Go to 3 insiders, go to 500,000. But this is my go-to screen. The last 4 to 6 weeks, 2 or more insiders buying $200,000 or more worth of stock. That's it. That's the only scanning criteria I need. As you see here at the bottom, it's going to populate the list of stocks that meet that criteria. We've got a decent little number here. We've got probably 30, 40 names maybe. We're going to go through each one of these, or go through a handful of these anyway. It also has features you can scan for cluster selling and the value selling. I don't scan for selling. In my research, and people ask me this all the time. They say, well, if insiders are buying, they think the stock's going up. Then when they're selling, they probably think it's going to go down, right? Wrong. And here's the thing. Insiders do not get paid like you and I. Okay, if you're the CEO of I don't know, Adobe, for example, you may have a base salary of, $500,000 a year. But then you get $2 million worth of stock, and you get a boatload of stock options. If they pay well, could pay you several $1 million more. So the guy might make $8 million this year, but his cash salary is only $500,000. So to access the other $7.5 million, he's got to sell stock. He wants to expand his house, sell stock. Send a kid to college, sell stock. Buy a Range Rover, he's selling stock. So there's lots and lots of reasons for them to sell, and only one reason for them to buy. So I don't find insider selling to be a reliable signal to short stocks or stay out of them. Additionally, with the SEC tracking this kind of activity, what I've found is they tend to kind of turn a blind eye to it. If an insider made money, but so did all the other investors, what they don't turn a blind eye to is insiders escaping with a big profit and investors holding the bag. If they dump all their company stock right before terrible news and gets chopped in half, they declare bankruptcy, that's when they're really going to go after them. And so I just don't see it happen, at least in my research. I don't see them dumping stock before big crashes down. So if I were you, I would avoid scanning for any kind of cluster selling or insider selling whatsoever. But this is the list of stocks we have. Now, if you want to apply some fundamental filters, I would just go back to the top, the fundamental tab here. And if you just want to find stocks, say, under a certain size, right? You don't want to find big monster stocks, or for example, you want to filter out over-the-counter stocks. You can do that. Is it a master limited partnership? We can filter out those stocks as well. If you just want to scan for optionable stocks, you can do that right here. Optionable stock, check yes, and it'll only return stocks that have options if you're looking to specifically trade options on these. If you want to find companies under a certain value, market cap over here is the value of the company. And by the way, just, another great thing this site does, any of these titles, you don't know what they are. If you hover over them or click on them, it will bring you to a page that gives you a definition of what that is. So market capitalization is the total market value to buy the whole company. So it's the share price times the total number of shares. So anything you see you don't like, what is the profitability rank? What is the quick ratio? What is the Petrovsky F-score? You can click on that. But maybe you want to find stocks that are, smaller, can make big moves. So you're looking for, stocks that are under maybe $2 billion. So just small cap stocks. You can apply that as well. And that's going to filter your list down even further. This will bring our list down to 2 pages instead of 3. So any of those filters you want to apply, but again, my go-to is simply go to the Insider tab, set the date range to the last 30 to 45 days, cluster buying minimum of 2 insiders, and value buying of $200,000 or more. Okay? So that's the basics on how to get this list and how to and see the stocks that insiders are buying right now. And if you want to zoom in tight, you want to go to the last 2 weeks, something like that, you can do so. But this gives me the best list to work from. Okay, and so from there, we're going to begin researching each one of these companies individually. Now, when you do this frequently, even if you just run this scan once per week, you'll begin to see some of the same stocks, okay? You'll begin to see some stocks go, oh, this thing sees insider buying every month. I've seen it every week for the last 3 months. You kind of know to breeze over it. You'll come across names, I dug into that one last week. It's not what I'm looking for. So even though we're getting a list of, let's see, how many records are we getting here? 79 stocks in this list. You may, week to week, only need to look at 15 or 20 of them. And again, it's not going to take you a whole lot of time. Maybe an hour a week, and you can have all this work done. Okay, when you're getting started, it's going to take you a little longer because you're trying to understand how all this works and decipher everything. So don't let this scare you. It's going to be second nature to you in a couple of months, I promise. All right, so everything on this site is clickable, which I love. So the top one here, and to give you the results, it just shows the ticker symbol, the company name, the current price, the stock, and then it gives you the value for each of the filters you ran. So we look for insider cluster buying of 2 or more. So here's 2, 5, 10, how many insider buys took place in that window. The value of those buys, we scanned for $200,000 or more. So here's all those values. We turned off over-the-counter stocks and made sure they're optionable and is a market cap below a certain level. But let's just go ahead and begin to dig into one of these. So all you got to do is just click on either the ticker symbol over here on the left side, and it should open a new tab with that stock. Now, I told you this site has a lot of information. Don't let this all overwhelm you. You don't need 95% of it. If you want to spend some time and dig through here and look at the financial strength and all the fundamentals and all this stuff, personally, I don't think it makes you any money. I think it's a waste of time, but it's all there. Just like with the scan, all we're going to need to do is see these tabs across the top. It's got the 30-year financials, so it shows you the full earnings history, sales history, all the company, the annual filing, right? When I say they're reporting earnings, this is what they report, right? Revenue per share, earnings, et cetera, cash flow, return, all these figures, they're all in here for the last 15, 20 plus years. And you can see all that. It's got a discount cash flow model in here. It's got dividend statistics. If you want to click on that, it'll tell you what the current dividend yield is, what the payout ratio is, or in other words, what percentage of their profits or cash flow they're using to pay the dividend, the growth rate. It's got a lot of great stuff in here, but you don't need it all. All we're going to do is, once again, just click on that Insider tab right there at the top. That's all we're concerned with when it comes to this stock. So we click on that Insider tab. If the page will load. I think my internet's a little slow at the house right there. That's why this is giving me a little bit of problems. And this will take you to the insider summary for this stock. Okay, so the first thing I like to look at are these two graphs right here at the top. Now, they show the same, roughly the same information, but shown differently. So as you notice, there's dates across the bottom. January 2020, July 2020, January 2021. Each one of these bars is for a month. So this is May of 2020, this June of 2020, July of 2020, etc. The blue line you see is the price of that stock over this time period. And the bars are insider buys and sells. So unsurprisingly, the green bars are insider buys, the red bars are insider sells. The difference in the two charts, the one on the left shows the number of insider trades. So you see the scale on the left of just one or two. The one on the right shows the volume of insider trades, so how many shares were bought that month. What I like to see is very little insider buying or very low, and then a big spike in the current month or the month before. I want to see opportunistic insider buying. If I pull up a chart, it's like, oh, well, insiders buy every single month. They're buying about in line with what they normally do. It doesn't really tell me anything. That's not showing me that something big could be happening. They're trying to jump on it. If, however, I see, okay, the most insiders ever bought is maybe 20,000 shares, 30,000 shares, and this month they bought 300,000, that's going to set off my spidey senses. That's going to get me interested. So this one is fine. It's not great. It's not terrible, but it's fine. So we see the biggest insider buying volume over the last couple of years. It's got some options at the top. You can switch between 3 years and 5 years and 10 years and go back. Know that, like, this is a big insider sell. Someone sold like 3 million shares. It's probably an institution or something. So it's skewed this whole graph here. So keep that in mind. The number of insider trades will be a little easier to see. Here it is over the last 10 years. But 3 years should give you a pretty good picture, okay? Now, as you scroll down, these are the actual insider transactions by date, newest at the top, for this company. So we see here these two buys are what triggered it by James Ayers, a former director of the company who's still considered an insider. This is the date the transaction happened, whether they bought or sold, the number of shares, the shares owned, and this is important. I'll tell you why in a second, but this shows how many shares they own after this trade, the trade price, what they paid for the stock, the trade percentage, which is the percentage of their position this trade represents. The cost, this is in thousands, so 1,000 is 1 million. This is 1977, so that's 1.9 million. Just move the decimal 3 to the right. And how much the value of that stock has changed up or down since the insider bought. Okay, so let's walk through this really quickly. Just looking at this one trade. I'm already not interested in this company. I was not interested 3 seconds into this, and I'll tell you why. He bought 53,000 shares. That's a $2 million buy. At first, when someone's like, if you were on Insider Monkey or Open Insider, that's all you would know. To me, that's not a big trade because look how many he owns. He owns 10.7 million shares, and he bought 53,000. So the trade percentage, that's how much they increased or decreased their position. So he added 0.5% to his position. Now, if I owned a stock, I thought big things were coming, I knew good news was about to be released, and the stock was going to go up, I assure you, I would increase my position by more than 0.5%. I would increase it by 20 or 30 or 50 or 100%. So I'm not interested in this one already. And that's the only guy buying, this guy who bought right here. So this one's not a great candidate to me. But doesn't mean we can't explore here a little bit deeper. Now, as I said, everything on here is clickable. Over here on the right side, the share ownership details. If you click that number, it will take you to the actual Form 4 filing, which we'll dive in here in a moment. You can also click on the name of this insider, and it will show you the breakdown of all their insider trades across this company and any others they may have bought, the track record of those trades, and everything in between. But I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. I just want to show you what we're looking for right now. Okay, so this one to me is kind of off my list very, very quickly. Next one, Dave & Buster's, PLAY. Once again, when you hover over it, some data comes up. But just click on the ticker symbol. It's going to take you to this crazy page. Click on the Insider tab right there across the top, and it'll quickly bring us to the Insider Summary. Now, this one looks a lot better to me. Look at this chart. So look at the volume of insider activity on the right side here. Notice there's been very little insider buying, and then suddenly this month, insiders have piled in for 631,000 shares. I'll go to 5 years, and it's equally significant. So this is by far the largest cluster of insider buying at Dave & Buster in more than 5 years. This is what I'm looking for. This is an opportunistic trade. So now I scroll down and see who's making those trades. Now, this one's a little bit skewed in the bulk of this trade. Here's 300,000 shares, or a $10 million buy done by Hill Path Fund Limited Partnership, or this is basically an institutional fund. Now, one thing you need to know about insider activity is that it's not just the people who work there. The SEC also defines anyone who owns 10% or more of a company stock as an insider. So they're going to show up in here as well. So you're just going to have to kind of filter those out a little bit and take them with a grain of salt and judge them for what they are. But if you think about it, somebody who owns 10% of the outstanding shares of a company, guess what they can do? They can vote themselves on the board of directors. They generally do. They get a couple of guys with board seats. They're now privy to all that inside information. So they are really insiders. They are privy to that information. But don't let the value of those buys throw you there. Because while $10 million is a big buy, look at this. He owns 5.3 million shares. So they own roughly, $150 million worth of the stock. So in relation to that, it's not that big. But the other two look pretty good. So we've got a buy here. I'm just looking at the most recent one from December. So we got a buy here. Michael Cordieri, the CFO, bought 5,000 shares. Now owns 40,000. So increased his position by 12% or so. It was a $158,000 buy. And stock's moving up a little bit since then. We'll kind of ignore these two for now. Les Lehner, the Senior Vice President and Chief Procurement Officer, he bought 12,000 shares for roughly $400,000. And look, now he owns 28,000. So he, roughly increased his position, 42% or so. Same thing here with Tony Weiner, the Senior Vice President and Chief Operations Officer, bought 14,000 shares for $500,000. Increased his position by 47%. So these actually look pretty good. I mean, I don't want these Hill Path Fund to throw me off, but the other three, the legit, corporate insiders, we got the CFO in for $150,000. We got the Senior Vice President in for $400,000. We got this Chief Operations Officer in for $500,000. These look pretty good. So my next step is going to be just to look at the track records of these insiders. And once again, we're going to click on the name, and it'll break down all the insider transactions. And in the next video, we're going to walk through what to look for with those insider track records, how to find the people who are fairly good at this, who have a history of well-timed buys and buying near the low before the stock makes high, and how to find people who are doing something different or thinking either really long-term or they're just not very good at timing their stock buys. So go ahead and watch the next video as we dive into how to analyze the individual insider activity and track records.